This was the first time a Welsh leader has visited the Rock. The timing is significant.
These are uncertain times. It's hugely important as the UK leaves the EU that we have the widest possible consensus on what the transitional arrangements should be, and ultimately, of course, what the lasting settlement should be as well. Essentially, it's about avoiding the imposition of barriers where none currently exist. For us in Wales, access to the single market is hugely important. So we are hugely keen to avoid the imposition of any barriers, whether they're tariff barriers or whether they're regulatory barriers in terms of accessing that market. The financial sector is very important here in Gibraltar. It's an important part of our economy in Wales as well, and we want to make sure that no sector is forgotten about when the negotiations are taken forward.
The Welsh First Minister has spoken about his desire to minimise the amount of barriers that are put in place to accessing the European single market. Is this something that you discussed with him?
Quite the opposite. I think an opportunity to understand how the UK as a single market, which is what it is really after devolution, is an opportunity for Gibraltar to do even more than we're doing today in a way that draws us even more closely into the British family of nations.
The UK election is seen to have weakened Theresa May's strength in Parliament, and Mr Jones feels that this is in the interest of Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Gibraltar.
The UK government cannot have confidence that it can go into any negotiations with the Commission on the basis of having support in the UK Parliament and more widely. Now, we have made the point to them that it's in their interest to seek the support of the devolved administrations beforehand and agree a common position. They've not taken up that offer thus far.
Do you think that the devolved administrations will be stronger if they work together?
I think it's hugely important that all of us who are members of governments that aren't part of the UK government, that we seek to find common ground. It's hugely important we're not forgotten about. Hugely important that we talk to our friends here in Gibraltar, understand what the common issues might be, and then work together to make sure that Brexit works for everybody. Of course, we have a Brexit that doesn't just work for one part of the UK or just for the UK, but also the island administrations and also Gibraltar. Well, Gibraltar is very powerful in terms of its position vis-à-vis the UK government. And we want to work with our colleagues in Gibraltar so that we can look to formulate common positions ourselves, and of course to express our support for Gibraltar and Gibraltar's constitutional status.
Well, CARWYN JONES understands the structure of devolution and the structure of the Gibraltar Constitution, the current Constitution, which is a constitution granted in the context of Gibraltar being a part of the European Union with Britain, and therefore having a specific clause in it, and I've referred the Parliament to this on a number of occasions, that talks about how European matters are not external relations matters, because they are related very often to the things that are no longer defined as being retained by the United Kingdom, but the areas which are at large and therefore the responsibility of the government of Gibraltar. Now, that is much wider than the devolution settlement in the UK. So there are many more things retained by Westminster in the context of Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland than there are in relation to Gibraltar. So the big issue for the nations of the United Kingdom is, where does the power go once it leaves Brussels and comes back to the UK? Should it stay in Westminster? Should it go to the devolved nations? That is not an issue for Gibraltar, because it's very clear that anything that comes back from Brussels to the United Kingdom, unless it relates to external relations or security, comes back directly to Gibraltar. And this is where the analysis, I think, is one that is being done by the other devolved nations and is leading them to the conclusion that Gibraltar has more of the authority that they would like to see over their own affairs going forward. And in the context of Brexit, and as we saw when Clause 24 was announced, the clout that Gibraltar has with British public opinion, I think, is something that is important for us not to discount.
Today's press conference finished off on a light note, with Mr Jones asked about Europa FC beating Welsh champions the New Saints this week 2-1 in Wales. He laughed it off and said, with a return leg, there is still all to play for, as there is in the Brexit negotiations.